So Fantastic Four is the newest Marvel movie released and the newest attempt at a Fantastic Four movie. And I will say, when this movie was announced, I was looking forward to it. Me personally, I thought the trailers looked really cool. I love most of the cast in this movie, and I was very, very interested to see how this version was going to turn out. Because we all know the previous Fantastic Four movies that were made were pretty terrible. I mean, the acting in them sucked, the stories were bullshit, and none of the visuals in them were anything special. So naturally, I expected this Fantastic Four to be a huge improvement. But then I heard it was getting absolutely destroyed by everyone who saw it. But I still felt I needed to see it just to know, is it really that bad? So now that I have seen it, and I've had a couple of days to think about it, I have to respectfully disagree with those who call this movie the worst thing released so far this year. It's one of the worst fucking pieces of shit I have ever seen in my life! Holy shit, how do you make a movie based off of some of Marvel's most awesome heroes ever so damn terrible? Honestly guys, I feel I just need to express to you all and truly explain why I felt this was such a terrible movie. That's my spoiler warning. If you haven't seen Fantastic Four yet, good for you. So in the beginning of this movie, Reed Richards is like this young super genius kid whose goal is to create some kind of teleporter. Why does he want to? I don't know, because this movie gave absolutely no reason for it. And eventually he gets Ben Grimm, who's in his class, to help him with it, and eventually the two of them are able to make it work together. So now the movie flashes forward to the two of them when they're in high school. They've perfected the teleport and they present it in a science fair. It ends up working, but it ends up taking out one of the basketball backboards as it does. And because it worked, the judge ends up disqualifying them because they apparently think it's magic and not science. Wait, so because they pulled off the scientific revolution of the decade, they're disqualified from the science fair? You hear that, kids? If science is your thing, don't enter anything you discover or invent into one of those type of fairs, because they're just going to destroy your confidence. However, the two of them are eventually approached by Dr. Franklin Storm, who's the father of Sue and Johnny Storm. He wants them to help him build this quantum gate to help him get into this parallel dimension. They agree to it, and now all the members of the Fantastic Four, plus Victor Von Doom, are now working on this project. And this is where the movie only continued to screw shit up. First, let's talk about the characters. None of them are a real legitimate representation to what they are in the comics. Let's start out with Reed Richards. This guy in the comics is literally a super genius. This guy goes to college at the age of 14, and by the age of 20, he basically has a degree in everything that's science. In the movie, this guy is clearly still a senior in high school at the age of 18, so clearly he wasn't smart enough to skip any grades. And the whole time he's working on this quantum gate, he keeps getting corrected by Victor Von Doom, which only suggests that he's not as smart as he should be. And speaking of Victor Von Doom, this guy who played him just pissed me off. First of all, this guy as well, like Reed Richards, is supposed to be really, really smart. And he just didn't look like he was. I mean, maybe that's just me judging a book by its cover. But when I pictured Dr. Doom, I didn't picture a guy who looks like Russell Brand with shorter hair. So he too is recruited by Franklin Storm, even though the last time he worked for him and apparently didn't get his way. He gets tried to set like everything they worked for on fire. However, he agrees to help him after he finds out that Sue Storm will be working on this because he of course has a really creepy crush on her. Worst part is it's completely implied that Franklin Storm is aware of this. To any dads out there that may be watching this video, would you let some creepy punk-ass smart guy who basically tried to kill you a while ago anywhere near your daughter? Yeah, I didn't think so. But now let's get to the Storm siblings, Sue and Johnny. In the comics, they grow up without a mother, which basically causes Sue Storm to become, like, the stereotypical older sister to her younger brother, Johnny. She acts as such a motherly figure towards him, trying to keep him out of trouble because of how much of a hothead he is. And in the comics, it leads you to feel they have a really strong relationship between the two. In this movie, though, their relationship is completely non-existent. And you know what else is non-existent? Any sign of a romance between Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Because in the comics, these two eventually fall in love, get married, and they even start a family together. And sure, maybe this movie intended for that relationship to grow with later sequels. But in this movie, it just didn't even seem like they gave a shit for one another. So these failed characters are all able to build this portal, but they get denied the chance to join the expedition to this parallel dimension. Yet these people in charge basically had them work really long and hard on this project and are now denying them basically any kind of reward for it. Is there anyone in this movie we can like? Well, hey, maybe we can like Johnny Storm, Reed Richards, and Victor Von Doom after the three of them decide, you know what, fuck these assholes, we're gonna go on this expedition ourselves. We're gonna pull a Neil Armstrong, and we are gonna be the first ones to walk this planet. But first, Reed Richards has to call his best buddy in the world, Ben Grimm, to come on this expedition with them. So now let me delve into his character now that he's finally basically a part of this movie. And does this movie at least do him justice? Nope, and here's why. Ben Grimm is supposed to be this big, strong, athletic guy who's basically Reed Richards' biggest help in all this science stuff. In this movie, he's like 90 pounds, 5'2", and he doesn't contribute whatsoever to this quantum gate. And you don't see any sign anywhere in this movie of him and Reed really being best friends. They build one thing together from the beginning of this movie, and they text each other a few times. Sure sound like real bros, huh? So basically, out of pity, Reed Richards invites him to go on this expedition with him, and he agrees to go. So the two of them, Johnny Storm and Victor Von Doom, they head to this planet in the parallel dimension while leaving Sue Storm on Earth. They check out this planet, they place an American flag down on it to officially claim it as American territory. But before they head back, they decide to check out this little energy pool that they see. And even after approaching this pool that they have no idea whether it's safe or dangerous, what does the really smart Victor Von Doom decide to do? He decides to touch this shit! And of course it causes this giant eruption and earthquake that Victor eventually gets caught up in and the group is unable to save him. However, the three of them are able to escape, but not before they get mutated by the planet. And once arriving back, they let off some giant invisible shockwave force field that gives Sue her powers because she gets caught up in it, even though she didn't even go on this expedition. Talk about 4 storylines, right? So now they're all back and they have absolutely no idea how to control their powers. Ben obviously having the hardest time becoming the Thing and being covered by the rocks that mutated him. So what does Reed Richards decide to do? Yes, what does the guy who's supposed to be the leader of this group and the mentor of this group decide to do? He pussies out, he leaves the facility, and he leaves his friend stuck there begging him for help. Thanks, movie, for continuing to butcher these characters. So now the movie decides to fast forward 1 year. And at this point, all of the characters know how to control their powers. Ben is now the Thing, Reed is Mr. Fantastic, Johnny is the Human Torch, and Sue is the Invisible Woman. And the fact that this movie showed zero backstory and them learning how to control their powers really pissed me off. Because some of the best scenes in any superhero movie is seeing the hero learn how to control and use their powers. It makes for some great character development, some really exciting moments, and even some of the funniest scenes in the movie. But note this movie actually thought it could be awesome without that kind of backstory, so they didn't even bother to make something like that. Maybe now the studio will understand a little bit why this movie is such a shit eater. And eventually the group tracks down Reed, they bring him back to the facility so he can help rebuild the quantum gate so they can learn a cure for their powers. And what I hated about this is this movie just went from the characters being absolutely infuriated and pissed off with him for abandoning them, to basically just accepting him back with absolutely no problems whatsoever. Like, really? This asshole just basically left you all to die and none of you really give a shit? Okay, fine, Ben gives Reed attitude when he comes back, but the movie eventually just has the two of them become friends again with no real explanation whatsoever. And it just didn't really feel like anywhere that these 4 characters really joined together to become such a strong team. Hell, even the first Fantastic Four movie had character development and was able to get these 4 to appear to be friends so they could become a great team. Maybe that was the whole point of this movie all along, to show that the original Fantastic Four movies really were not as bad as we all thought they were. Well, mission accomplished. So eventually they rebuild the machine and they go back to the planet. And there they find Victor, alive. I mean, seriously, how has he survived being on that planet for a year? The movie gives no explanation to how he was able to. So much lazy writing in this movie, it's unreal. Now he's back and he's now Dr. Doom. Actually, no, you know what? He is not Dr. Doom. He's some metal mannequin with psychic powers that wears a cloak. Because this movie thinks that's enough for it. But no, we're all smarter than the dipshits who made this atrocity. We all know it takes a little bit more than that. And he arrives on Earth basically all like, yeah, screw the human race, I'm gonna destroy the world and rule that other planet. At least I think that's what his plan is. Yes, I know, it doesn't make any sense at all. So now he just strolls through the headquarters and he just starts staring at people, glowing his eyes at them, which causes their heads to blow up, including Franklin Storm. But did I care when he died? Not really though, because this movie failed at that too. So now the characters pursue him back to the planet and the fight begins. And the whole time, Doom really just doesn't seem as powerful as the movie's trying to make him appear to be. I mean, all he really does is he uses telekinesis to try to bury the 4 heroes in a bunch of rocks. And the movie almost makes it look like that's enough to defeat the heroes. Way to make the Fantastic Four look badass, movie. However, the Fantastic Four is able to work together, and through one really cheap trick, the Invisible Woman makes the Thing invisible, he punches Doom in the face, and it sends him into the portal, which kills him. So I guess I want to say Dr. Doom himself was in this movie for maybe 1 minute, and the final conflict in this movie lasted like 7. No! There was zero dramatic tension in the fight. There was no real backstory with the guy who's supposed to be the main villain in this movie, and he just got taken out in the cheapest way possible. It's just stupid! Now the Fantastic Four basically get their own headquarters from the government as reward for saving the world, and that's where the movie ends. Thank God. So all in all, Fantastic Four was a giant, worthless piece of shit. Nobody does justice to any character they portray. The development of these characters is completely non-existent. The story doesn't make much sense. The visuals are nothing we haven't seen before. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but this movie somehow ended up being worse than any of the Fantastic Four movies before it. This is one of the worst movies I have had the utter displeasure of seeing. And if you still have interest in seeing this movie after everything I've said, I am begging you, don't. It does not deserve your time or your money, I promise you. And to the studio that made this movie, do not ever put us through something like this again. This was absolute torture for anyone who likes superheroes to see. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.